Well, what is there to say about the Panthers that hasn't been said already? What a team, what a legacy. We'll dive into just how the Panthers climbed the mountain for the fourth straight year in a row in our final season review for 2024. And to break this all down for me, Zero Tackle expert analyst Darren Park. And Darren, they did it again.
They did, and who's to say they won't another time? It's quite extraordinary. I mean, if you look at their home and away season, it wasn't as dominant as the previous four seasons had been. Obviously, they were a dominant side in 2020, but didn't win the grand final. But defensively, still ranked the best in the competition. Fifth year in a row, they've conceded less than 400 points in a season. They've actually, if you combine those 5 years, they've conceded 415 less points than the next best team in the competition, which has been the Melbourne Storm over that time. They were still ranked 40 odd points better defensively than anyone else this year. So as much as they were a bit dour, when it matters most, that ability to squeeze the life out of teams, and there were a few better examples of that than grand final night when they conceded the first try but then went on to basically take any run and any flair out of the Melbourne Storm game. So superb when it mattered most, even if they didn't appear to be as dominant. And as we say, the defensive record, even in that 2000 year when there were 4 less matches played because of the pandemic, they were still going to concede well less than that total there as well. Whilst we're on a roll, they conceded 22 points in 3 finals, so that's 7 and a bit a game. Half a decade of grand finals, 4 straight titles, and first team to have won 4 in a row since that Dragons side that won 11 in the 50s and 60s, and before that it was the Bunnies in the late 1920s. And I think the key disclaimer on all of that is we're in the salary cap era now, so it is much harder to dominate a competition in the age of equalisation. So I would argue that, 11's 11, so that's probably the greatest achievement, but I would argue that the four-peat of the Panthers has them as probably the greatest side we've seen.
Yep, absolutely. Just some staggering numbers there. So let's move over now to our 2024 pass mark. So Penrith came into 2024 coming off 3 premierships, and they got another one. So I think it's fair to say they passed the mark in 2024.
Yeah, they did. The bar's always going to be set really high when you've done what they've done. Had they have lost the grand final, had they have lost the preliminary final, I still think you'd look at it and go, look, they've been good for so long. There's going to be a regression eventually, and they would have been forgiven for that. But the fact that they just keep making history and do what they're able to do, it's most definitely a pass. They're experienced enough now that as we said, their numbers in the home and away season weren't as strong, but it doesn't matter. They did enough to finish top 2, to get home finals, to get that advantage. And then when it comes to the grand final, how many games you won in the home and away season doesn't matter. So, perfect.
Yep, absolutely. So we're going now to our lowlights. We're going to try and pick some. So pretty slim pickings for lowlights for Penrith, but I think the one that comes to mind would be the World Club Challenge loss.
Yeah, it comes outside of the NRL season for them. So the World Club Challenge against Wigan, the Super League champions, and they were pretty stiff in that game. There were some forward passes that didn't get picked up in that match. There was a try that didn't appear to be grounded from Wigan in that game. Now, I know that the direct comparison with that try would be the one that Melbourne Storm weren't allowed immediately after half-time in the grand final. It's probably quite similar to that, but swings and roundabouts. Obviously, you get some and you don't get others. But I think certainly if you lined up the balance of refereeing in that match, they were on the rough end of the stick, that's for sure.
Yep, absolutely. All right, let's go to more highlights. In a year with plenty of highlights, we're going to start with one that actually came from a low light. We probably could have had this in the last segment, but Cleary goes down for a lot of the year, but it turns into a highlight with a lot of players standing up in his absence.
Yeah, which is what they've been able to do. If you had a crystal ball at the start of the year and said, Nathan Cleary will play 13 of 27 matches, you'd be thinking, well, they might battle a little bit. 3 of those were finals and he was at his best by that stage. But you could mount an argument that if you balance the season, the Melbourne Storm were better than they were over the course of the year. They beat them twice. All of the numbers suggested they were slightly better, but when it came to grand final night, the tactical masterclass from Ivan Cleary, where the onslaught in the middle, which not only gave them field position, it really did strain Melbourne Storm's spine. It fatigued them. They couldn't get any run. I mean, the only try they were able to generate through that area was Harry Grant, and that was individual brilliance through that. So they were able to overcome the fact that their own attack was a little bit less potent by just basically limiting what the opposition were able to do against them. So, yeah, they willed themselves to that title very impressively.
Yep, absolutely. All right, now to name our standout player. So this one's a bit of a bittersweet one, given that he's moving over to the West Tigers, but it's hard to go past Jerome Luai for our standout player.
Yeah, and he'll have an important job to do at the Tigers. They're at the absolute opposite end of the spectrum, but showing a bit of talent, and he'll be something for them. But as soon as he signed that contract, it was announced pretty early in the year that he would go to the Tigers. The pressure was lifted off his shoulders, and he dominated. I mean, he's been in the game for a while. He'd be mid-20s. But with Nathan Cleary missing half the season, he really did drive the bus, if you will. 236 average kick metres, 13 line break assists, 15 try assists, 102 running metres per game. In the Origin series, he dominated, particularly those last two games that they won. Got to captain his country, Samoa as well, which was a fitting reward. That was in the last few weeks. So outstanding season for him, and he'll go over, obviously, with the Panthers' best wishes, as much as they'll be sad to lose him. And the special mention would be Dylan Edwards, 200-plus running metres per game is elite. So, so many stars.
So looking ahead to 2025 now and their pass mark for next year, I think it's pretty much, you know, they're going to win it until they don't.
Yeah, exactly. Like it can't last forever. And again, they have stars to replace, but good luck writing them off. I mean, the challenges are going to come from the same sorts of places, the Melbourne Storm and a few other clubs like the Sharks and that are improving, and even young, exciting teams like the Bulldogs. So the teams will keep asking them questions, but they just keep answering them. You know, if they can keep that list together, and they've mastered, there's a million ways to build a list. So there's local juniors, there's grabbing players from other clubs, there's, you know, internal development and all of that, and they seem to have that mix right. They lose 3 or 4 like Luai, they bring in Talagi as well, who will be useful for them. So yeah, the expectation is that the Panthers will stay good until they're not, and I think they'll be good for a little while yet.
Absolutely. Well, that wraps it up for the season review for the Penrith Panthers. Thank you, Darren, and thank you for doing all these season reviews. It looks like it's just the place to be, Penrith.
Yeah, it is, and saving the best for last, and they'll be taking a power beating again. Yep,
absolutely. So let us know in the comments if you think the Panthers can deliver the perfect high five in 2025. Jump into the rest of our YouTube channel. We've got season reviews for every other team. We're also taking a look at contract targets for 2026 for every other team as well. Thank you for watching, and catch all the latest NRL news at zerotackle.com.